Dear Reddit, what is the best April Fool's Day prank you ever saw, completed yourself, or heard about? The president of my company usually pulls a prank, which I was new and not aware of. He emailed about a new, fun policy where if a traveling coworker was in your area, you'd get to host them and the company would reimburse you with not enough money. Holy s he quartering acted you. Left a note for a coworker saying he missed a call from a Mr. Bear. Phone number was for a zoo in a different state. This is so silly. This is my favorite. The guy who burned hundreds of tires in a dormant volcano to make people think it erupted again was my favorite. Most subtle and trolling one I've ever seen, big pictures when you come out of the elevator at work. Second and third floor pictures swapped. Every single person getting off the elevator that day did a double take, but few could actually pinpoint what was wrong. The entire day something just felt off for everyone. I was working at a doctor's office, and the parking situation was limited, so we had to take a shuttle to the office building. On the shuttle was all my coworkers with the exception of the office manager. We all decided it would be hilarious to call out of work, one by one. All 6 of us, one at a time, one right after the other called out. The manager getting more and more hysterical with each call. We walked into the office 20 seconds later, and she was in full panic mode. Pretty funny stuff. I come from a small country town in rural Australia. Since it's small, it's consequently conservative and somehow filled to the brim with both hippies and bogans, neither of which like big companies with their small town businesses. When I was a kid there was this piece of land in town which used to have a petrol station on it. The station was gone but all of the land was contaminated, so none of the locals could afford to buy it and clean it up. It was always assumed it would be brought by a big corporation and developed, which is something a bunch of small-town people did not want. Come April Fool's Day, locals wake up to see a huge very official-looking sign on the fence of the site saying, McDonald's opening here soon. Cue small-town outrage shitstorm. Petitions in every shop in town against it. We got told in school by teachers how it would negatively affect the town, and pretty much every local in town was phoning up Macca's raging about how they couldn't stand for it. No one bothered to check the fine print down the bottom which said, for inquiries call Ronald. The persons responsible behind were never caught despite the manhunt. The next year for April Foods someone put a red-headed scarecrow on the fence. It got torn apart very quickly. No one needed a reminder of how a single sign embarrassed an entire town. TLDR, Ronald McDonald pranked my entire town. Classic April Foods joke. A radio station where I grew up used to do some good ones. One year, they did one faking Britney Spears' death. They were later kicked off the air for it. They had people calling in and giving eyewitness accounts and hilarious. They also did one where they pretended the station had changed to a Spanish-language station. It was hard rock. They did an entire show in Spanish, with music and everything. Not April Fools, it's the best dad prank my dad ever pulled in my opinion. When I was in 3rd grade, I had to write a biography of my dad, so I had all the normal S. My dad was born in West Branch, MI. My dad went to Ogama Heights High School. My dad's best friend was named Ben Dover. And it got worse. My dad and Ben liked to golf together. My dad remembers that Ben was always very gentle with the balls but held the shaft too tight. Took until last year when our basement flooded and we had to take all of that stuff upstairs for me to find it. I turned that into my teacher. No one said anything. Your dad is hilarious. All day today I've been convincing my sisters there is a prank. A huge prank. They've checked the candy they got today. All of their clothes and bed. They are terrified. The prank is that I'm too lazy to have set anything up. There is no prank. Yeah, great prank is to do nothing, but convince everyone you've done something. I used to live in a town with a brewery that also had a tap outside with free spring water for the public. One year, the paper wrote that for a limited time, the tap would have beer instead. There were long queues and very disappointed people after that one. Spates, yes. I made a fake cat turd out of a 7-Eleven brownie and left it in the bathtub. When my girlfriend found it, I ran in and ate it. This had me rolling. Just for the stupidity of the prank and how your girlfriend's face probably looked. Late to the party, but here goes. Somebody I know works in a restaurant, so he's frequently cleaning tables. On April Fool's, he took an empty spray bottle of the red cleaning solution he normally used, and filled it with cherry Kool-Aid. He then proceeded to pretend to clean a table, wait until someone was watching him, and then casually unscrew the cap and take a drink. Well, one year Adult Swim gave us Toonami with a lot of great old school anime after years of it being off the air. There was such a demand for it to return, that we actually got it back. Then this year they gave us a sneak peek of the new FLCL as well as the film Mind Game, all in Japanese. My wife and I eloped when we got married, on April 1st. After the ceremony we changed our relationship on Facebook, then set down our phones and watched them explode with texts, calls, FB messages, as everyone tried to figure out if we were really married or not. Every year I send my buddy news about something crazy on April Fool's, which is always a prank. He tends to forget, but sometimes he catches on. It's been 6 years. One day, a real crazy event will actually happen on that day. I will be the first to tell him. He will be all confused when others start saying it, but he thinks it was a prank because he got it from me. It will be excellent. In for the long con. I like it. A few years ago I set up a pair of boots and pants in the men's restroom, reached under and locked the stall door. Single stall by the way's best part is it got the new lab manager. He was ready to call the facility manager and the safety manager to check on whoever had been in there all morning, before he looked over the top of stall. He went on about for 2 days. I wrote a small basic script that told someone that they had a terrible virus that had corrupted their hard drive and that they needed to format their drive. I then named the file Google Chrome, changed the icon to Google Chrome, and put it on my sister's computer and removed the actual shortcut to Google Chrome. She was not happy. Probably not the best one, but the first one that came to mind was Minecraft 2.0. Torches burned out periodically. You could overfeed animals until they exploded. Feeding sheep golden apples made them float into the stratosphere. Furnaces would occasionally explode. Chickens would sometimes lay diamonds and explode. Dropper blocks converted everything to fish. Horses, coal blocks, and stained glass, all of which were actually implemented in future updates. Super hostile mode would strike you with lightning and spawn dozens of mobs near you every few seconds. A friendly wither mob. Blocks would sometimes speak when you punched them. Sadly, this year's prank has been pretty lame. Ugly textures. The ugly textures were pretty disappointing, but on the website they talk about how they are the new textures they have been working on and how they are objectively perfect. Once at the radio, a woman told how she almost killed her husband with a prank. She knew that he had hay fever. So, she gave him a glass of infused pollen to make him sneeze a lot. Instead, he had anaphylactic shock and almost died. That's stupid. I wrote the word gullible on the ceiling of my dad's home office. I'm a big fan of walking around with my shoe untied on April 1st, then whenever someone says, "Hey, your shoe is untied," I sarcastically say, "Oh, ha ha, April Fools." I'm not falling for that again. I'm just starting to imagine you enunciating that phrase as you have typed it, and now I have giggles. I worked at the customer service desk at my old job. On March 31st, I photocopied a paperclip 5X in 5 different positions on the scanner, then shuffled up the copies. I then reloaded the printer with that paper so that the person who printed the opening reports the next day had random paperclips all over them. The opener happened to be a woman in her 50s who isn't really familiar with technology. She couldn't figure out where the paperclip was coming from, so she called the manager. WHO was in his 20s, and they proceeded to tear apart the printer trying to find said paperclip. The guy in the next department was there when I did this and was there to see it in action. Said it was the best thing he'd seen in a while. He finally told them to put the printer back together and check the paper. That was about 6 years ago and I still cry from laughing about it. This is Diamond SpongeBob. He only appears every 200,000 videos. Subscribe for good luck.